Former CIA Director John Brennan had this reaction. He tweeted, Donald Trump's press conference performance in Helsinki rises to and exceeds the threshold of high crimes and misdemeanors. It was nothing short of treasonous. Not only were Trump's comments imbecilic, he is wholly in the pocket of Putin. Republican patriots, where are you? Joining us now from Monterey, California, is another former CIA director and Defense Secretary Leon Panetta. So where I want to start is, do you agree with John Brennan's statement?
Well, I'm not so sure it was treasonous as it was incompetence on the part of the President of the United States for not defending the United States of America, defending our values, defending our intelligence agencies, defending our law enforcement agencies. Presidents, when they appear at those kinds of summits, particularly with an adversary, their responsibility is to defend the United States of America. And very frankly, the president failed to do that.
So where do we go from here? What comes out of this summit today? Brennan asked Republicans, sort of, what is your reaction here? Republicans in Congress generally has mostly succeeded in blocking the administration's attempts to ease sanctions, for example, or other sort of rapprochements with Russia. Do you think that continues? Do you think it strengthens?
Well, you know, I think this is probably one of the worst summits between an American president and the Russian president, at least in my lifetime, mainly because this president, in essence, sided with the Russians on an issue that involves an attack on the United States of America, on our election process. And all of our intelligence agencies, this isn't something the president suggested that they seem to have believed that it was Russia. No, they found facts that prove that it was Russia. And indeed, the 12 indictments of Russian military officers also confirm that the Russians were involved. And for a president of the United States to not stand up and denounce Russia for those kinds of attacks and say that it can never happen again, but rather imply that he takes Russia's word ahead of the word of his own officials, Dan Coats, his intelligence agencies, I just think is a major embarrassment for the United States.
So, Secretary, I'm just wondering, where does the intelligence community go from here? What does this do to the CIA and the FBI, who have been investigating this and came up with these findings?
Well, there's no question that the president undermines the morale of our intelligence agencies when he takes Russia's word over the word of our intelligence agencies. So it does impact on our intelligence agencies. Now, they're good Americans. They're patriots. They're not Democrats or Republicans. They really do want to protect the national interests of our country. So I assume they'll continue to do their job as they should. But having a president of the United States undermine their credibility and undermine their work, I think is not only wrong, it weakens the United States in the face of the rest of the world.
So you've talked about that this was an embarrassing display today, that it harms the credibility of our intelligence services. What do you think will be the other effects of that press conference that we saw today?
Well, look, I think if you look at the president's entire trip, in many ways it could have been scripted by the Russians. I mean, he goes to NATO, condemns our NATO allies. He goes to Britain, criticizes Prime Minister May and Brexit. He then calls the EU the foe of the United States. And then he goes to Russia and basically says that he takes the Russian word over the United States intelligence and law enforcement officials. I mean, it weakens the United States of America when a president of the United States does not stand up and defend the interests of the United States. That's what concerned me about this entire summit.
Sir, why do you think President Trump is doing this? If you look at the reaction today, it has been nearly uniformly negative from both sides of the aisle. Not entirely, but almost entirely. What would motivate him, as you say, to repudiate our allies and to draw Vladimir Putin closer?
Well, you know, obviously that's the issue that I think bothers a lot of people, that the president would, in fact, take the Russian viewpoint over the viewpoint of our own country. And, you know, even Putin himself said that he supported Trump over Hillary Clinton, which only feeds into the issue of the fact that the Russians then engaged in a major attack on our election system, largely that benefited President Trump. Now, I think the president, you know, kind of rejects that issue because it undermines the validity of his own election in his own mind.
Yeah.
The fact is he was elected president of the United States. And the fact is that as president of the United States, his first responsibility is to defend the United States of America. And I think what he's doing is in his own guts, in his own emotional reaction to what has happened here.
Yeah.
I think it has clouded his judgment as president of the United States to recognize the facts as they are.
Secretary Panetta, a lot of people who are on the more conservative side might say this is liberals making too much of a meeting that was simply that. It was a meeting between two leaders of a country. There were no promises made. Why are people freaking out and saying that this was disastrous and a wholesale repudiation of the U.S.? Relax. It was just a meeting. What would you say to them?
You know, I think the conservatives in this country are people who believe in the strength of the United States of America. Look, we have the greatest country on the face of the earth, and presidents are elected to defend the United States of America. And when you're on the world stage, particularly on the world stage with an adversary who has tried to in every way undermine our democracy, I think conservatives themselves, along with American citizens in general, believe that our first responsibility is to protect the United States of America. And that should be, frankly, the first responsibility of the President of the United States. I don't think there's any dispute here that the President, by virtue of some of the comments he made today, weakened our country. Yes, it's just another summit, and we'll move on. But when those things happen at that level, make no mistake about it, it hurts us in terms of our future, and it hurts us in terms of our foreign policy.
Sir, thank you very much. Our thanks to former CIA Director Leon Panetta joining us from Monterey, California, with his reaction to today's Russia-U.S. summit.